they were strong Kingitanga supporters in the 1860s. So when the ultimatum was given by the colonial government to either swear fealty to the British Crown or to be treated as enemies and to retreat. And virtually the entire community of Ihumatao left and went down to join the whanonga down around Ngaruawahia. And consequently, all of that land around Ihumatao was confiscated. But the people came back over the years and had the equivalent of a little reservation of just a few acres just down by the river there. And between there and their last sacred mountain, because the others were destroyed, there's this sort of open land that belonged to the settler family who had bought it by auction from the government. And so the feeling was the land was still there and it was still theirs. But through the machinations of council officials, first in Manukau Council, then of Auckland Council, politicians, local body politicians, the national government with their SHE Act, Special Housing Area Act, and Fletcher's sort of orchestrating the whole thing, taking advantage of the secretive way in which the super city was organised. They were able to just basically sew up a deal whereby that land was going to be turned into a 500-unit housing development. Supposedly 10% were going to be affordable, and the rest were going to be, $800,000, $1 million kind of thing. So absolutely, as you know from the way the last government and the way things were organised, nothing in it for any people. However, some things in it for a few influential people who could sign bits of paper and get something out of the deal. Okay, that's what's happened. When the local community and when the young people living at Ihumatao found out about this, it was the beginning of 2015, and everyone said, "Oh, too late, it's a done deal. The land's gone, the things are signed, nothing can be done." Well, almost 4 years later, 4 years later, nothing has been built on that land, and the resistance of the young people and some of the elders at Ihumatao, the local community around there, and a few other people from over this side of the water, there's been a ferocious battle. Nothing has been done for 4 years. However, for reasons which are beyond me, Fletcher, instead of walking away with their tail between their legs and worrying about bigger losses and just sacrificing this, they're really digging in, and they seem to be determined to push this project on. Now, one of the methods of delaying the process was an appeal to the Environment Court. It's a pretty long shot. There's not much chance of winning the appeal, but it was one of the delaying tactics to sort of build community support. The judgment will be delivered at the end of October, and I had kind of naively thought, well, Fletcher won't do anything until the judgment is given on that land. But they're still ploughing ahead with their ways of working on that project without actually encroaching on the land itself. And of course, it's such a huge project, there's all sorts of infrastructure that's going on. One of the main things will be stormwater pipes, which will destroy the local river. That's one of the things we're expecting them to do. 1st of October is the period when those sort of earth-heavy construction sort of jobs can get going. And earlier on this year, small groups of people, when people came surveying those kind of things, they went out there and just sat around the land and actually physically stopped the workers going. And the workers, to their credit, when the people said, this is why we're here and this is why we're against you doing it, they just very correctly said, fine, we're off, and they left it. However, there's no guarantee that it will be that easy from the 1st of October. So one of the reasons I was asked to come along here was partly, I think, the last time we came when Bryce talked about the fact that so many of the drivers, so many of the workers that would be involved in these projects are totally familiar with the issue out there, and they don't want to have a bar of the project. So this kind of concept from the past, the green ban at Ihumatao. I mean, the building workers in Australia in the 1970s used the green ban extremely wonderfully effectively. And I think it was probably that inspired the call for the green ban up at Bastion Point in 1979. And I was living overseas at the time, so I never knew the details of it. And I met someone just a while ago, and I was saying, "Oh God, I suppose of course, it'd be a lot easier in those days when the unions were a lot more powerful than it would be now." And he said, "Forget it. It wasn't the union hierarchies; they were totally against the green ban at Bastion Point. They said, you can't fight the government, you can't do this. This was the lesson 1951, blah blah blah." It was a grassroots movement of the workers involved that forced the union hierarchy and leadership to come on. And of course, once it had been a great success, the history is that it was the union leaders that had brought on the Great Green Ban. It was a grassroots one. So that's a kind of an inspirational kind of thing for us, because the whole movement out there has been totally grassroots, community based, and we're sort of hoping that everyone who's involved in whatever way, through union, through community organisations or whatever, that they'll lend their support to what's going to be happening in the next few months. We've just got a little printout, one-page sheet, which is just the statement of the arguments about the green ban of Ihumatao. I gave it to anyone, just pass it around if you haven't got one. The only other thing that I suppose I should mention is that often things that you think of were bad may turn out to have a silver lining. The part of the process of the Fletcher development going ahead involved the rezoning of the land out there. And Fletcher and the council, the council nominally opposed the rezoning. Fletcher and the landowners managed to get the Environment Court to agree to the rezoning of the land to make that sort of housing project possible. But in the Environment Court judgment, the judge said, well, the most important thing is the financial interests of the landowners, and by rezoning the land, we ensure that the landowners will get 23 million for the land instead of 46 million, which should be to rob the landowners of their stolen land or stolen goods. But the judge actually, what he did say is that if this is done, it has to be done properly. There has to be a structure plan which protects the integrity of the landscape, the history, and all the rest of it. Now, of course, with the super city, which followed that, all of that was totally scrapped. They just said, super city, away we go, Special Housing Act, forget all that nonsense, ignore the judge's report. So there's a sort of a legal action going on to try and, to say that everything that council have been doing has been in breach of the law, because they've totally ignored what the Environment Court. But these are kind of legal stuff which we'll leave it to the lawyers. This battle will never be won in the courts, it will never be won in Parliament, it will be won in the way it's been won up until now through the support of people like us. So,
how can we help, Farrell?
Well, I was just thinking actually, I think it could very well be a matter of people actually being prepared to drive out there when the call comes. So I was thinking one thing that would be really awesome would be anyone who is prepared to be available to be on call is to just give a cell phone number so that people could be called individually and just say, hey, we need 20 people just out because there's a crew that's starting to work on a particular thing out there. That would be an immediate thing. I mean, the other thing is, the Facebook page is pretty good and pretty active. So just keep an eye on the Soul, SOUL, Soul Ihumatao Facebook page. Another way, if you're feeling, you all got fantastic campaigns that everyone's involved in, so many things. But if anyone does want to actually give a bit of energy to this particular campaign, there are Thursday, there's one going on now out at Ambry Park Farm.
Right.
We don't publicise where the place is because it's council property, but Ambry Park Farm every Thursday, 6:30 p.m. So if anyone's sort of not having a meeting here or something on a Thursday, just head out there and just talk to the people and just hear what's going on.
Fantastic, Farrell.
Cheers.
We'll send round one of your bits of paper here.
Yep.
Anyone